Today's topic will be how to attract and hold mature bucks. Now, I got a question on the YouTube channel from someone. They were saying, well, we've got a lot of 2-year-olds running around, a lot of 1-year-olds running around, but I never see really big bucks or mature bucks. And they're never really on the property. Maybe a few pass through here and there. And then I gave a pretty long answer, but I wanted to simplify it here a little bit more with an illustration. Now I'm going to use an example of my 12.3 acre property. That's all I have. But I've managed to not necessarily hold, because it's a little bit small to hold mature bucks because they need room. But it's attractive enough to where the deer are drawn to it for various reasons. And it may hold one buck, and many bucks might relate to it, depending on how many does are on the property and what's going on in the surrounding properties, on the neighbors' properties. But we managed to see a lot of deer. In my area, a 3-year-old I would consider a mature buck. You get anything beyond 3, it's really good for my area because there's a lot of pressure. So you get a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, you're doing excellent. Okay, and we've got a lot of 3-year-olds, we've got some 4-year-olds, and occasionally there's a 5-year-old that pops up. But there's a lot of pressure, and remember, it's only 12.3 acres. But if you have double this amount, you can do a lot more because you have more space and you have more room, and bucks need space, particularly older bucks. Think about it as people get older. Some people just want to be sort of left alone. They want to keep their space to themselves and have their time alone, and people thrive on that. You know, deer are social animals. Humans are social animals. But sometimes we just need peace and quiet, and that's what a mature buck needs. You need to have spaces on your property. If you have 25 acres plus, you'll have enough room for these spaces. I pack them in tight here in 12.3 acres. We have bucks that relate, but we don't necessarily have bucks that stay on our properties. But I utilize the neighbors cover, and I consider that when I'm doing things. And it works out to where if you add it all up, 20, 25, we're talking over 50 to 60 acres surrounding my including and surrounding my 12.3 acres, that allows me to do some things and things that I consider and relate to those properties as well. Because some of those properties, like the neighbor's cover that's over here to east of my property, it doesn't get pressure. And that's where a lot of big bucks hang out. And then they eventually come my way. Now, let's look at the first thing. How to attract and hold mature bucks. First thing, pressure. Pressure is the #1 component in understanding big deer and old deer. You've got to eliminate pressure. If you eliminate pressure, you're going to have more mature deer accessing your land. And think about this, you can accomplish this on public land. Not only private, but you can accomplish it on public land. How do you eliminate pressure on public land? You get away from people. You get away from the parking lots. You go in 1 mile, 2 sometimes. Maybe even over 2. You walk an hour in. You go and access places that are hard to access, straight up a big hill or around a big draw or something like that. You go where people usually don't want to go, and you will see things you never thought you would imagine on public land. Here, I'm in Pennsylvania, and a lot of folks don't know it, but if you find the right places, and I'm not going to give any details of where I have these right places that I've accessed, but I know there are places you can access where you can constantly harvest deer that are with a bow that are Pope and Young plus, and I know a lot of places where you're going to find Boone and Crockett bucks that are 160. I know they're out there. I've seen the bucks. I know people who've harvested the bucks. They're there. Okay, they may not be in large numbers like places in Iowa or other Midwestern states that don't get that much pressure, but they're there. And if you harvest a mature buck in a state like Pennsylvania, you harvest a Boone and Crockett buck in a state like Pennsylvania, you're top notch. You've got skills and you know what you're doing. So number one is pressure. You eliminate pressure from your small property. 12.3 acres, nobody goes on that property. From September through December. And unless I'm hunting that property, I don't step foot on that property. Unless I'm sneaking around the edges, occasionally to check a trail camera, I don't go on that property. And usually I don't check trail cameras unless I'm actually going to a stand. Now I have stand sites marked with the X here, and there's a trail camera on every stand. And I also have mock scrapes at every stand. Big point, mock scrapes. I tell people it's better than bait, and it's perfectly legal. I mean, it's a deer's natural way of doing their thing and going about doing things. So mock scrape camera on each stand. 1, 2, 3. I have more stands, but this is an earlier drawing of what my property looked like before I did a little changes. I do little improvements every year. But eliminate pressure. I don't go on the property from the end of August through December unless really I'm hunting the property. Okay? Eliminates all pressure on that little property. Deer know I'm safe here. And you've got to go in, you've got to have a travel route. Okay? You see access route right here. Dotted dashed line. Access route. There's my barn. There's the house. Go past the barn. There's a big bank right here. A stream runs through. I'm concealed when I'm below this path. The bank is above me. I'm walking below the bank whole way through. I've got brush here on this side of the trail. And I've got the bank above me, cutting through, getting to the edge of my property. I can't access the property from the outside. It's posted. It's private. I can't access it. I used to know the people. Property has changed owners. I can't access the property, so I have to have a defined travel route where I'm not spooking deer. Here's my cover. Here's my cover. I'm going between the cover. I've got a bank above me. I've got brush below me. I'm sneaking through and then I'm hitting my property boundaries. There's actually a house right here. Okay, it's less than 75 yards from my property. So I've got my access route. I take my access route, get to the edge of the property, and I go around. Deer are used to people being over here. So I can hit that border, I go around the border, come to that stand. I have a blind here. You go to my blind, and there's another tree stand here, you can go to the tree stand. Defined access route. Eliminate pressure. I don't walk through here, I don't walk this path, I don't walk that path, I never go in here. Okay? Defined access route is key. Don't go on the property September, October, November, December. That's so important. That's what is September, what is October, what's November, what's December? That's hunting season. Okay? That's hunting season. Or right before hunting season. Pennsylvania has split season depending on the management unit. Some places start in September, but most start around the end of September, early October. And now, with new regulations coming out, November 20th will be the end date for 2020 archery season in Pennsylvania. So we're going through the peak of the rut and into a little bit of the post rut. But I've noticed that the rut is still peaking through up into the 20th. That mid-November mark in Pennsylvania, according to the studies, the Pennsylvania Game Commission, embryo studies of roadkill does, mid-November is peak of the rut, right? And that's a lot of places in the northern part of the country. All right, so we've got our access route and we eliminate pressure. Eliminate pressure, number one. You don't need any of this other stuff. No food plots, you can kill deer. I never had food plots. I had a path, this path that went around, used to be an ATV trail. Okay? Never had a food plot. Put a tree stand up right on the edge of that ATV trail. The deer circled the thicket using that ATV trail. You define their movement. You give them a pattern to follow and they will follow the path of least resistance. Shot 6 deer right here. Not all of them were mature bucks. One is right over there on the wall. Shot it actually just across the border on the neighbors, but he was running this. Had a big rub right here. This one right here. Shot it right here. And 5 other ones. Okay? Now this deer is probably at least 2. He might be 3, but I know he's at least 2. But we get 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds occasionally. That's a big deal in this area. Okay? But consistent deer patterning and using the same places and allowing them to have basically peace and quiet without having pressure. Number one, pressure. Food and cover. You see here, cover is the dashed line and the green is food. What I've done in recent years, now I've been pretty much managing this property since I'd say 2007. It's 2020, so 13 years roughly. I started managing the property and started adding food plots. Prior to that, no food plots, and we harvested deer on this property and the surrounding properties. Okay, food plots and cover. The cover was always there. This used to be a field. Corn was planted here, all that sort of thing. Mostly corn, and this was corn. And now it's all grown up. Early growth. We've got blackberry, raspberry, sumac, briars, multiflora rose, just a bunch of junk stuff that people would consider junk brush. That's what deer like. We've got young hardwood regeneration, grasses on the path. What did I do? I enhanced it. Okay, they're already traveling around here, but I put stands in locations where I could actually sit and wait without spooking anything out of these locations, and I gave them a pattern to follow. So these food plots are more like food plot trails. I planted where deer were already going, and I made it more attractive with food. You can see how it's extended along here. Okay? Food plot trail system. And the cover is right inside of it. And the deer could stretch out right along here, right along here. You have neighbors cover to the east, neighbor cover to the north, agriculture all out here to the west. All kind of fields, corn, soybean, all that type of crops that the farmers plant. So food and cover, number two. Mature buck cover. Well, not a lot of mature buck cover necessarily here, but we do have some mature bucks who stay on the property from time to time. I've seen them come out of the cover, but not always. But what we can count on is we have neighbors who have cover, and a lot of mature bucks are staying on neighbors' property. How do we know? We've seen them come out of the property, particularly from this stand. And from this stand, you can see the deer come out of the neighboring property, and they'll come right in. Not every time, but a lot of times they'll be coming onto the property or passing through the property. Okay? So mature buck cover. If you have, this is 12 and there's about another 12, 13 over here of the neighbors. If I owned all this, I could hold these bucks. I could probably hold a couple mature bucks that consistently stay on the property, and I would have a lot of bucks passing through. More or less on the 12.3 acres, I have a lot of mature bucks, what I call mature bucks for my area, 3-year-olds plus, at least 3-year-old, passing through the property a lot. Some, maybe one here and there, will stay depending on what's going on that season. Okay, mature buck cover. And then I mentioned before, but I'll mention again, the access. The access, I mean, you might be able to put 1A for pressure, 1B for access, because it's pressure, access is pretty much the same thing. But we have one defined access route. I used to come through this big field. This is a big field to the east. I used to come through this big field, loop up around and come into my stand. This is the only stand I had. But as time progressed, people changed property ownership. I had to define a travel route for me where I didn't step off my property and where I wasn't spooking deer. Least amount of pressure. And that was this route right here. Okay? So access. It's very important. And it got a little statistics here that I wrote down. We've got 12.3 acres, 10 bucks harvested on the property or right near the property within 50 yards or less. Dozens of encounters. Dozens of encounters. We should have had a lot more bucks. We probably should have harvested at least 6, a half a dozen or more bucks on this property. Misses or whatever the case may be. Thousands of pictures. I've got thousands of pictures of bucks that are at least 3 years old. And I've cut probably even more of bucks that are younger passing through. Okay? And then how we do it all. Top 4 steps. Pressure, food, and cover, mature buck cover, and access. That's the way you do it. Those are key ingredients to attracting and holding bucks. I can't stress enough the pressure and access. The pressure and access. Key. It's the most important thing that you consider. Pressure and access. You don't even need food. You eliminate pressure and access, you have cover, you can do something. Food enhances it. Okay? Now these deer aren't necessarily feeding here forever. They're just moving along the route that I designated. That food is there, so they follow it, so they walk in front of my stand. And I eliminate pressure, they feel comfortable. So they start this routine all the time. You get some does in here, you might even get a mature buck in here bedding. They're going to follow that pattern. They're going to feel secure. When it gets dark, they're going to come over here to the west where all the farms are. And way out here to the east are also farms. And that's their pattern that they'll continuously use. So I hope you can consider this. I hope I'm helping people. If you know someone that's interested in this, share the YouTube channel, like the channel, subscribe to the channel. I hope you have a successful season. I'm trying to think up a lot of more things to put on the video now. I want quality stuff. I don't always think I put quality stuff on. I get a thought in my mind and then I post it, make a little video and post it. But that's all right too. But I think you can learn from it. But I think this is quality stuff. This is how I did it. I didn't get this from a book. I didn't get this from anyone else. This is my little 12-acre place. And over time, this was just an ATV trail going around here. And I started thinking about, well, these deer walk this trail. And then I shot the first buck. He's right there. Right there. That's the first buck I shot utilizing this system. Okay? Shot him right here in this corner. And then after that, so many sightings, so many opportunities. You could do it on as little as 12 acres. You double that, you're really going to be able to do it. I mean, really, ideally, if I could have between 25 and 50 acres, I think that's perfect for a small deer property, a small deer parcel. But you can do it with this too. Key ingredient, eliminate pressure.